My name is Heather Wilson, and I thought I had my life figured out. As an accountant, I had meticulously saved dollars for a down payment on my first home. Then one day it vanished, all of it. The betrayal cut deep when I discovered my younger sister Amanda had stolen my bank card and emptied my account. But the real knife to my heart, my parents defended her. They chose her over justice over me. Before I tell you how I turned this nightmare around, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to stand up against family injustice. Growing up in a comfortable middle-class suburb of Chicago, our family of four appeared normal from the outside. Our house on Maple Street had the requisite white picket fence, and my parents, Diana and Frank Wilson, were respected members of the community. Dad worked as a high school principal, while Mom ran a small bakery downtown. But behind closed doors, a troubling dynamic had taken root from early on. From as far back as I can remember, there was always a stark contrast between how my sister Amanda and I were treated. For years younger than me, Amanda somehow became the golden child of the family. While I was the responsible, studious one who followed rules and worked hard, Amanda was impulsive, charming, and somehow always got her way. Amanda is just sensitive. My mother would say, whenever my sister threw a tantrum over not getting what she wanted, she feels things more deeply than other people. I can still remember the Christmas when I had saved my allowance for months to buy my parents special gifts, a leather wallet for Dad and a delicate necklace for Mom. Amanda had forgotten until Christmas Eve, then quickly made cards with crayons. Yet somehow her last-minute effort received more praise. "Look how creative your sister is," Dad had said, displaying her card prominently on the mantel, while my carefully selected gifts were simply acknowledged with a quick thank you. This pattern continued throughout our teenage years. I caught Amanda stealing dollars from my purse. When I confronted her in front of our parents, she burst into tears, claiming she needed it for a school project and was too afraid to ask. "Why are you making such a big deal about this, Heather?" Mom had asked, putting her arm around Amanda's shoulders. "Your sister said she was sorry. No one mentioned paying me back." No one punished Amanda, and that was never returned. By the time I graduated high school, I had learned to rely only on myself. I put myself through college at Northern Illinois University, working part-time at a local accounting firm while maintaining a GPA. Meanwhile, Amanda dropped out of two community colleges, with my parents continuing to foot the bill and make excuses for her. College just is not the right environment for her creative spirit. Dad would explain when relatives asked about Amanda's progress. After graduation, I secured a full-time position at Henderson Financial in downtown Chicago. I rented a modest one-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park and began saving aggressively. My goal was clear: save enough for a down payment on a condo within years. I tracked every penny, worked overtime when available, and even took on freelance bookkeeping for small businesses on weekends. The only luxury I allowed myself was a nice dinner out once a month and occasional coffee with my best friend Jessica. Otherwise, I lived frugally, putting away nearly percent of my income into my savings account. I visited my parents for Sunday dinner most weeks, though these visits often left me emotionally drained. Amanda still lived at home working part-time at a boutique when she felt like it. My parents continued to subsidize her lifestyle, paying for her car insurance, cell phone, and giving her spending money. "Your sister is still finding herself," Mom would say whenever I hinted that perhaps Amanda should take more responsibility. "Not everyone has your drive, Heather." Months ago, I received a promotion at work, becoming the youngest senior accountant in my department. The new position came with a substantial raise and an opportunity to attend an important week-long conference in San Francisco. I was ecstatic seeing my hard work finally recognized. The Sunday before my trip, I joined my family for dinner as usual. Amanda seemed unusually interested in my travel plans. "So you will be gone the entire week?" she asked, helping herself to a second serving of Mom's lasagna and staying at that fancy hotel by the bay. I nodded, describing the conference schedule and mentioning I had added a couple of days to explore the city. "That is amazing," Amanda said with a smile that in retrospect should have worried me. "You totally deserve a nice trip after working so hard." Her words seemed sincere at the time, and I felt a rare moment of connection with my sister. Now I understand she was calculating exactly how long I would be away from home. That simple oversight would cost me everything I had worked for. After a productive week in San Francisco, I returned to Chicago feeling energized and inspired. The conference had been even better than expected, with valuable networking opportunities and insightful sessions on financial planning strategies. I had even managed to squeeze in a visit to the Golden Gate Bridge and a day trip to Napa Valley. My flight landed late Sunday night, and I took an Uber straight to my apartment, exhausted but satisfied. Monday morning, I followed my usual routine before heading to work. While waiting for my coffee to brew, I opened my banking app to check my accounts as I did every morning. What I saw made my stomach drop instead of the dollars that should have been there. My savings account balance read, "This must be a mistake," I whispered to myself, fingers trembling as I navigated to my transaction history. There it was. 5 separate withdrawals over 5 consecutive days, each for the maximum daily ATM limit of plus one smaller withdrawal of all made while I was on the opposite side of the country. My first thought was that my identity had been stolen. Heart racing, I immediately called the bank's fraud department. The representative asked several security questions before pulling up my account details. "Yes, Miss Wilson, I can see the withdrawals you are referring to," she said in a professional tone. "They were all made using your card and correct PIN at ATMs in the Chicago area. Specifically, all transactions occurred at ATMs in Oak Park. Oak Park, where my parents lived, where Amanda lived." "Were there any camera images?" I asked, already knowing who I would see on the footage. "We can request those from the ATM company as part of a fraud investigation. But since the withdrawals were made with your physical card and correct PIN, you would need to file a police report first." I thanked her and ended the call, my mind racing. I knew exactly what had happened, but I needed confirmation. I called in sick to work, something I had never done without genuine illness, and drove straight to my parents' house. It was just past a.m. when I pulled into their driveway. Mom would be at the bakery and Dad would be at school, but Amanda, who rarely worked before noon, would likely be home. I was right. When I rang the doorbell, Amanda answered wearing pajama pants and a new-looking designer sweatshirt I had never seen before. Her hair was freshly highlighted with expensive-looking ballet edge, and she had clearly just had her nails done professionally, a striking contrast to her usual chipped polish. "Heather, what are you doing here?" she asked, genuine surprise in her voice. "I thought you were coming for dinner on Sunday." I pushed past her into the house, my body practically vibrating with rage. "Where is it, Amanda?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Where is what?" she asked, but her eyes darted away from mine, and she took a step backward. "My money," I said, pulling out my phone and showing her the bank statement. "The you stole from me while I was in San Francisco." For a moment, she tried to maintain her innocent expression. Then, seeing the evidence on my screen, her face crumpled. "I do not know what you are talking about," she attempted, but her voice wavered. "Stop lying," I shouted, my composure finally breaking. 5 withdrawals, all from ATMs near here, all while I was away. You took my emergency card from my old desk and emptied my entire savings account. Tears welled in her eyes. But they were not the same manipulative tears I had seen her use on our parents countless times. These contained genuine fear. "I was going to pay you back," she whispered. "With what money?" I demanded. "You barely work." "That was my down payment for a home, Amanda. Money I spent years saving." She collapsed onto the couch, no longer trying to deny it. I just needed a break. "Okay. I have been so depressed lately, and everyone always talks about how successful you are, how responsible. It is always, why can't you be more like Heather? Do you know how that feels?" I could not believe what I was hearing. She had stolen my life savings and was somehow making herself the victim. "So you stole dollars because you are jealous of me. What did you even spend it on in days?" Before she could answer, we heard the front door open. My parents walked in, both looking surprised to see me there. "Heather, honey, what a nice surprise," Mom said, setting down her purse. Then, noticing the tension in the room and my tear-streaked face, she asked, "What is going on?" I turned to them, phone in hand. "Amanda stole my bank card while I was in San Francisco and withdrew all my savings. Gone." Dad's face darkened. "That is a very serious accusation, Heather." "It is not an accusation," I retorted, thrusting my phone toward him. "Here are the bank statements. 5 withdrawals, all from ATMs in Oak Park, all while I was away, and she already admitted it." They both turned to Amanda, who was now sobbing openly. Is this true? Mom asked, her voice soft with disbelief. Amanda nodded, tears streaming down her face. I was going to pay her back. I just needed. I have been feeling so worthless lately, and I just wanted to feel good for once. To my utter shock, instead of expressing outrage at Amanda's theft, my mother sat beside her and put an arm around her shoulders. Oh, sweetheart, she soothed. You should have told us you were struggling. Dad looked at me with an expression that somehow made me the villain. Your sister is clearly going through something serious, Heather. I stood there in stunned silence, unable to process what was happening. My sister had committed a crime, stealing my entire savings, and my parents were comforting her. What did you spend it on? I asked again, my voice hardening. Amanda sniffled. Just some new clothes. And I went to Vegas with some friends last weekend. And I got my hair done and some other stuff I needed. Stuff you needed? I repeated incredulously. You blew through dollars in days on a shopping spree and a Vegas trip? You do not understand what it is like to feel so bad about yourself all the time, Amanda cried. I just wanted to feel normal for once. I turned to my parents, waiting for them to set her straight, to demand she make restitution. Instead, my father sighed deeply. Heather, it sounds like your sister is dealing with some serious mental health issues. We need to be understanding. I could not believe my ears. Understanding? She stole dollar stuff from me. You have a good job, Dad said in what he probably thought was a reasonable tone. You can save up again. In that moment, it became crystal clear. They would always choose Amanda. They would always excuse her behavior, no matter how egregious. And they would always expect me to be the one to understand, to forgive, to sacrifice. I cannot believe what I am hearing right now, I said, my voice eerily calm despite the hurricane of emotions inside me. Are you actually suggesting I just forget about Dollar Da that she stole from me? My mother dabbed at Amanda's tears with a tissue. No one is saying that, Heather. Of course, Amanda should pay you back eventually, but right now we need to focus on her mental health. She is clearly in crisis. In crisis? I repeated, incredulous. She planned this meticulously. She waited until I was across the country, took my card from where it was hidden, and made the maximum withdrawal every single day until my account was empty. That is not a crisis. That is calculated theft. Amanda's sobs grew louder. You are making me sound like some kind of criminal, because what you did is literally criminal, I shouted, finally losing my composure. It is called theft and fraud, and people go to jail for it. My father stepped between us, his face stern. That is enough, Heather. No one is going to jail. We are family, and we will handle this as a family. I took a deep breath, trying to regain control. Fine, let us handle it as a family. Amanda needs to tell me exactly what she spent my money on, and we need to figure out how she is going to pay me back. All of it. Dad nodded, seemingly relieved by my more measured approach. That sounds reasonable. Amanda, tell your sister what happened with the money. Between hiccuping sobs, Amanda began listing her expenditures. I spent about on clothes and shoes. The trip to Vegas was around, including the hotel and flights for me and my two friends. You paid for your friends too? I interrupted, feeling my blood pressure rise again. She nodded, not meeting my eyes. They have always been there for me, and I wanted to do something nice for them. With my money, I emphasized. Then I got my hair done at that exclusive salon downtown, she continued. That was about, and I bought a new iPhone and MacBook because mine were so outdated. That was about. The casual way she described blowing through my hard-earned savings made me nauseous. And the rest, I pressed some spa treatments, a few nice dinners, and I paid off some credit card debt I had. I did the mental math. That still does not account for all of it. Amanda shrugged. I do not remember everything. It went fast. I turned to my parents. So now that we know what happened to my money, how is she going to pay me back? An uncomfortable silence filled the room. My mother cleared her throat. Well, as you know, Amanda's job at the boutique is part-time, and most of that goes to her basic expenses. What expenses? I asked sharply. She lives here rent-free. You pay for her car insurance, her phone, even give her spending money. That is not fair, Amanda protested weakly. No, what is not fair is stealing dollars and expecting no consequences, I shot back. My father raised his hands. Let us all calm down and think rationally here. Heather, does your renter's insurance cover theft? Maybe you could file a claim. I stared at him in disbelief. Are you seriously suggesting I commit insurance fraud to cover up Amanda's theft? That would be another crime. I am just trying to find a solution that works for everyone, he defended. A solution that works for everyone would be Amanda taking responsibility for once in her life and paying me back. My mother sighed heavily. Heather, it is just money. Family is what matters. Your sister made a mistake. But creating a huge rift over material things is not the answer. Just money, I repeated, my voice rising again. That was years of my life. 3 years of working overtime, taking side jobs, skipping vacations, barely going out with friends, all so I could save for a home. And you're dismissing it as just money. You are being dramatic, Amanda muttered. Something inside me snapped. No, Amanda, I am being a functional adult, something you know nothing about. And you too, I said, turning to my parents, have enabled her for her entire life. You have excused every selfish, irresponsible thing she has ever done, and look where it has led. She is years old, living at home, working part-time, and now she has graduated to felony theft. Congratulations on your parenting. My father's face hardened. I think you need to leave until you can discuss this civilly. I laughed bitterly. Civilly? My sister commits a crime against me, and I am the one who needs to be civil. Heather, my mother said in her most placating tone, we understand you are upset, but if you push this, you will damage your relationship with your sister, possibly forever. Is that really what you want over money? I looked at the three of them, my sister's tear-stained face now holding a hint of smugness. My parents' expressions of disapproval directed at me, not at the daughter who had committed theft, and my decision crystallized. What I want, I said quietly, is my money back. And if none of you see that as a priority, then I will find another way to handle this. I walked out of my childhood home feeling like I had been betrayed, not once, but 3 times over. First by Amanda's theft, then by my parents' defense of her, and finally by their collective expectation that I should simply absorb the loss to maintain family harmony. Back in my apartment that evening, I sat alone on my couch, staring at the wall. Everything I had worked for was gone. My carefully laid plans for buying my own place, demolished. And my family, the people who were supposed to have my back, had chosen to protect the person who had harmed me. The weight of the betrayal was almost physical, pressing down on my chest until it was hard to breathe. For the first time since I was a child, I allowed myself to cry tears of hurt, anger, and disillusionment streaming down my face as I finally accepted the truth about my family that I had been denying for years. They would never put me first. They would never hold Amanda accountable, and if I wanted justice, I would have to seek it myself. After a mostly sleepless night, I called my best friend Jessica first thing in the morning. They said, "What?" She practically screamed into the phone after I recounted the previous day's events. "Heather, that is absolutely insane. Your sister stole $1 from you, and they're acting like you are the problem." Pretty much, I confirmed, cradling my coffee mug. They kept talking about her mental health and how I should be understanding because she is going through something. The only thing she should be going through is booking processing at the local police station, Jessica said firmly. This is not some minor family squabble. This is a serious crime. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I know, but they're still my family, Jess. I do not want to call the police on my own sister if there is any other way to resolve this. So what are you going to do? I am going to try one more rational approach. I am going to create a formal repayment plan and present it to them. If they refuse, then I will have to consider legal options. I think you are being too nice, Jessica said, but I support whatever you decide to do. Just do not let them manipulate you into eating this loss. Heather, you worked too hard for that money. After we hung up, I spent the morning creating a detailed repayment plan. I calculated what Amanda could reasonably pay each month based on her current job with increases once she found full-time employment. I included provisions for missed payments and a timeline that would see me repaid within years. It was generous, far more generous than Amanda deserved, but I was willing to be reasonable for the sake of family peace. That afternoon, I returned to my parents' house, document hand. This time, I had called ahead to ensure everyone would be home. I was determined to maintain my composure and approach the situation like the business professional I was. They were waiting for me in the living room. Amanda perched between my parents on the couch like a child in need of protection. I took a seat in the armchair across from them, placing my folder on the coffee table. "Thank you for meeting with me," I began formally. "I have given this situation a lot of thought, and I have come up with a solution that I believe is fair to everyone." I opened the folder and took out 3 copies of the repayment plan, handing one to each of them. This is a structured repayment plan that would allow Amanda to return my money over time. As you can see, I have calculated monthly payments of $1, which is reasonable given her current income situation. My father frowned as he scanned the document. "A month? That is excessive." "It is actually very generous," I countered. "At that rate, it would still take years to repay what she stole in days. Most lenders would charge interest, but I am not asking for that." Amanda was staring at the paper, lower lip trembling. "I cannot afford $1 a month. My job at the boutique barely covers my personal expenses. Then perhaps it is time to get a full-time job," I suggested. "Or a second part-time job. That is what responsible adults do when they owe money." My mother placed a protective arm around Amanda's shoulders. "Sweetheart, your father and I can help you with this. We could contribute, say, $1 a month toward repaying your sister." I did the quick math in my head. At $1 a month, it would take over years to repay me. "We could maybe do $1, my father offered, as if he was being extraordinarily generous. "Even at $1, we are talking about 7.5 years, I pointed out. "That is completely unreasonable." Amanda suddenly burst into tears again, burying her face in her hands. "I cannot believe you are doing this to me. You know I have been struggling, and now you are trying to financially comfort me for years." I stared at her incredulously. "I am not doing anything to you, Amanda. You did this to yourself when you stole my money." "You are financially comfortable," my father said in that reasonable tone that was beginning to make my skin crawl. "You have a good job, good prospects. Your sister is in a more precarious position. By her own choices," I replied evenly. "I worked hard to create financial stability for myself. I made sacrifices. I took responsibility for my life instead of expecting others to support me." My mother's face hardened slightly. "Not everyone is like you, Heather. Amanda has always been the sensitive one. She feels things more deeply, and that makes it harder for her to cope with life's pressures." There it was again, the same excuse they had been making for her my entire life. Amanda was sensitive, so she did not have to follow the same rules as everyone else. Amanda felt things deeply, so she was entitled to take what she wanted without consequences. "Being sensitive does not give her the right to steal," I said firmly, "and it certainly does not excuse it." "No one is excusing it," my father insisted. "Though that was exactly what they were doing. We just think this payment plan is too harsh and would create unnecessary hardship." I closed my folder and stood up. What is unnecessary hardship is having my entire savings wiped out by my own sister. What is unnecessarily harsh is coming to my family for support and being told that I should just accept being robbed because the alternative might inconvenience the thief. "Now you are just being melodramatic," my mother said with a dismissive wave of her hand. I looked at each of them, in turn my sister's tear-stained face, my father's stern disapproval, my mother's dismissive expression, and something inside me hardened. They had made their choice, and now I would make mine. "I have tried to be reasonable," I said quietly. "I have tried to find a solution that would allow us to handle this within the family. But none of you seem to grasp the seriousness of what has happened. Or you simply do not care about the harm that has been done to me." "Of course we care," my father protested. "No, you do not," I replied with certainty. "If you cared, you would be holding Amanda accountable instead of making excuses for her. If you cared, you would be insisting that she make this right instead of suggesting I just absorb the loss." I picked up my folder and walked to the door. "I will give you hours to reconsider this repayment plan. After that, I will be exploring other options." "What is that supposed to mean?" Amanda asked, sudden fear in her voice. I turned back to look at her. "It means exactly what you think it means." As I walked to my car, I heard my mother call after me. "Heather, do not do anything you will regret. Family is more important than money." But as I drove away, I wondered if they had ever considered me truly part of the family at all. That evening, I called Kyle, a friend from college who now worked as an attorney. After explaining my situation, I asked what legal options I had. "First of all, what your sister did is definitely a crime," Kyle confirmed. "Credit card theft and fraud, potentially grand larceny given the amount. These are serious charges that could result in felony convictions. My stomach tightened at the word felony, but I pressed on. What would that process look like? You would need to file a police report first, Kyle explained. Provide all the evidence, bank statements, transaction records, anything that shows the money was taken without your authorization. The police would investigate, likely interview your sister, and then the prosecutor would decide whether to press charges. And if they did press charges, your sister could be looking at criminal proceedings. With the amount involved, there is a real possibility of jail time, especially if she cannot make restitution immediately. I closed my eyes, trying to imagine Amanda in jail. Despite everything, the image troubled me. Is there any middle ground? I asked, something between just letting her get away with it and sending her to prison. You could file a civil suit instead of pursuing criminal charges. Kyle suggested that would be focused on getting your money back rather than punishment. But honestly, given what you have told me about your sister's financial situation, collecting on a judgment might be difficult. What would you do? I asked, after a moment of silence. Kyle sighed. If it were me, I would start with the police report. That does not mean you have to follow through with pressing charges, but it establishes an official record of the crime and shows you are serious. Sometimes that is enough to motivate people to make things right. After thanking Kyle for his advice, I spent a sleepless night weighing my options. By morning, I had made my decision. The police station was busier than I expected when I arrived that Thursday morning. I waited nearly an hour before being called back to speak with an officer. Officer Jackson was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, but a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened carefully as I explained what had happened, taking detailed notes. "Do you have documentation of the withdrawals?" she asked. I handed over the printed bank statements I had brought with me, along with a timeline I had created showing my whereabouts during the withdrawals. "And you believe your sister is responsible?" "I know she is," I confirmed. "She admitted it to me and my parents." Officer Jackson nodded, continuing to type into her computer. "And the card was in your possession the entire time?" "No, I kept an emergency card in my old desk at my parents' house. That is the card she used." "I see. And did you give her permission to use this card?" "Absolutely not," I said firmly. Officer Jackson looked up from her computer. "Miss Wilson, I want to be clear about something. Filing a false police report is a crime. And once you file this report, the investigation will proceed according to protocol. Are you certain you want to move forward with this?" I hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Yes, I am certain." "All right then. I will need you to read this statement and sign it, if it is accurate." As I signed my name to the official police report, I felt a strange mix of relief and apprehension. This was no longer just a family matter. It was now in the hands of the legal system. When I returned home that afternoon, I decided to check social media, something I rarely did. There on Instagram were photos from Amanda's Vegas trip the previous weekend. Amanda, pictures of her and her friends living it up at expensive clubs, shopping bags from luxury stores strewn across hotel beds, champagne bottles and room service, all paid for with my money. In one particularly grilling photo, Amanda posed in front of a Gucci store, bags in hand, with the caption, "Treating myself because I deserve it. #care, #living life." I took screenshots of everything, my resolve strengthening with each image of my sister flaunting what she had purchased with my stolen savings. Later that evening, my phone rang. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. I almost did not answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello, how could you?" Amanda's voice was shrill with panic. "The police just came to Mom and Dad's house asking questions about me. They said you filed a report claiming I stole from you." "I did file a report," I confirmed calmly, "because you did steal from me." "I cannot believe you would do this to your own sister," she cried. "Do you know how serious this is? They said I could go to jail." "I do know how serious it is. That is why I have been trying to get you and Mom and Dad to take it seriously." "Please, Heather," her voice dropped to a desperate whisper. "Please drop the charges. I will pay you back, I promise. Just do not do this to me. You had your chance to work out a repayment plan." I reminded her, "You and Mom and Dad decided it was too much of a burden on you. I will accept your plan. I don't like the slash of a month. Whatever you want. Just please call them and tell them it was a mistake." Before I could respond, I heard my father's voice in the background. Then he came on the line. "Heather, this has gone too far," he said, anger evident in his voice. "Do you have any idea what you have done? The police are saying Amanda could be charged with a felony." "I am aware of that," I replied, maintaining my composure. "How could you do this to your sister, to this family? What will people think when they hear about this?" "Perhaps they will think that actions have consequences," I suggested, "or that theft is wrong, even when it is committed by family members." "I never thought you could be so vindictive," he said, disappointment heavy in his voice. "Your mother is beside herself. Is that what you wanted? To tear this family apart?" "No, Dad, what I wanted was my money back. What I wanted was for my family to support me when I was wronged, instead of defending the person who wronged me. What I wanted was for Amanda to face consequences for once in her life instead of being coddled and excused." "Well, congratulations," he said bitterly. "You have certainly made your point. I hope you are satisfied." After he hung up, the phone immediately rang again. This time it was my mother, alternating between tears and anger, begging me to reconsider, telling me I was destroying the family, asking how I could be so heartless. For a brief moment, doubt crept in. Was I taking this too far? Was I allowing hurt and anger to drive me toward an extreme response? But then I remembered the Instagram photos. I remembered the dismissive way they had treated my loss. I remembered a lifetime of Amanda being excused while I was expected to be the responsible one, the understanding one, the one who always had to give way. No, I decided I was not taking this too far. I was finally standing up for myself after a lifetime of being pushed aside. And with Kyle's guidance, I had formulated a strategy that would give Amanda one last chance to make things right before the legal system took over. I arranged a family meeting at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop downtown on Saturday morning. I arrived early, securing a corner table that offered some privacy. I had my folder of evidence, including bank statements, screenshots of Amanda's social media posts, and the new legally binding repayment agreement that Kyle had helped me draft. My parents arrived first, both looking tired and strained. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed from crying, and my father's normally immaculate appearance was somewhat disheveled. Amanda trailed behind them, head down, none of her usual confidence evident in her posture. "Thank you for coming," I said formally as they took their seats. "Like we had a choice," my father muttered, but a sharp look from my mother silenced him. "Heather," my mother began in a placating tone, "we are here to discuss how we can resolve this situation as a family. The police involvement is excessive, and we hope you will reconsider." I took a deep breath, centering myself. I have given this situation a great deal of thought, and I see three possible paths forward. I opened my folder and laid out 3 documents on the table. Option 1, Amanda returns to the police station, provides a full confession, accepts the charges, and I request that the court mandate minimum sentencing with required restitution. Amanda visibly paled at this, but I continued before anyone could interrupt. Option 2, Amanda signs this legally binding repayment agreement, which requires significant monthly payments of second dollars with serious consequences for default, including wage garnishment and asset seizure. My father's eyes widened at the increased amount, but I pressed on. Option 3, I proceed with full charges, make no leniency requests, and allow the legal system to determine appropriate punishment, which could include felony conviction and jail time. "This is blackmail," my father said angrily. "No, this is accountability," I corrected him. "Amanda stole second dollar from me. These are the consequences of her actions, not mine." "Heather, please," my mother implored. Second dollars a month is impossible for her." "You know that." "Actually, it is not impossible," I replied calmly. "Amanda could get a full-time job like most adults her age. She could sell the designer items she purchased with my money. She could move out of your house and get roommates to save on expenses. There are many solutions. If she is actually motivated to make this right." Amanda, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. "You're enjoying this, aren't you? Seeing me suffer. You have always been jealous of me." I almost laughed at the absurdity of her statement. Jealous of what exactly? Your lack of education? Your lack of career? Your lack of independence? Your lack of basic integrity? Of how much Mom and Dad love me? She shot back a glimpse of the old Amanda breaking through. "You have always hated that they paid more attention to me." Instead of responding to her provocation, I reached into my folder and pulled out my phone. I pressed play on a recording. Amanda's voice filled the space between us. I just needed a break, okay? I have been so depressed lately and everyone always talks about how successful you are, how responsible it is always. Why can't you be more like Heather? Do you know how that feels? Then my voice. So you stole dollars because you are jealous of me? What did you even spend it on? In days. I stopped the recording and looked at their shocked faces. I recorded our initial confrontation. I have Amanda's admission of guilt, as well as the subsequent conversation, where you all suggested I should just let it go. You cannot record people without their knowledge, my father protested. That is illegal. Illinois is a two-party consent state, I acknowledged, which is why this recording would not be admissible in court. But it does serve as a reminder of what actually happened in case anyone's memory has become conveniently selective. I pulled out another folder. I also have documentation of previous incidents where Amanda took money from me. From my purse when I was in college, my birthday money from grandma when I was included in my prom money that mysteriously disappeared. I never reported these because they were smaller amounts and because I wanted to preserve family harmony. But that pattern stops now. My parents exchanged troubled glances. For the first time, I sensed uncertainty in their united front. What exactly do you want, Heather? My mother asked quietly. I want my money back, all of it, and I want Amanda to finally face consequences for her actions instead of being protected from them. My father cleared his throat. If we could help Amanda meet the monthly payments you originally proposed, would you drop the police report? I considered this. The original agreement also included provisions for her to find full-time employment within months and to sell the luxury items she purchased with my money to make an immediate good faith payment. Those terms seem reasonable, my mother said cautiously, as if afraid of breaking the fragile negotiation. I would need the agreement to be legally binding, I added, not just a family promise that can be broken without consequences. We understand, my father said, shooting a meaningful look at Amanda. Amanda had been staring at the table, but now she looked up, tears streaming down her face. But these were different from her usual manipulative tears. They seemed to contain genuine remorse. There is something else you should know, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We all turned to her, surprised by her interjection. The money I spent, it was not all on shopping in Vegas. I owed people money. Bad people. My parents looked as shocked as I felt. What are you talking about? My father demanded. Amanda's shoulders slumped. I have been gambling online. I got in over my head. Borrowed from some loan sharks. They were threatening me about when to pay them off. The coffee shop seemed to fall silent around us as the implications of her confession sank in. This was not just about a shopping spree or a weekend in Vegas. Amanda had a serious problem, one that had been festering beneath the surface while my parents remained oblivious. How long has this been going on? My mother asked, her voice trembling. About a year, Amanda admitted. I tried to stop, but it just got worse. I was desperate when Heather mentioned her trip. I knew about her emergency card. It seemed like the only way out. For the first time, I felt a flicker of genuine sympathy for my sister. Not enough to excuse what she had done, but enough to understand the desperation that might have driven her. My father ran a hand over his face, suddenly looking much older. Why didn't you come to us? Because you always act like I am perfect, Amanda said with surprising insight. You put so much pressure on me to be the special one, the creative one, the one who does not have to follow the rules like Heather. I was afraid to disappoint you. My mother began to cry quietly, reaching for Amanda's hand. We had no idea. Of course you didn't, I said, unable to keep the edge from my voice. You have been so busy making excuses for Amanda that you never actually looked at what was happening with her. My father turned to me, a new understanding in his eyes. Heather, I think we owe you an apology, not just for this situation, but for a lot of things. It was the last thing I had expected to hear, and for a moment, I was speechless. We have not been fair to you, he continued. We have held you to a different standard, expected you to always be the strong one, the one who doesn't need support. And when you did need us, we failed you. My mother nodded, tears still streaming down her face. We were wrong, Heather. So wrong, and I am so sorry. The sincerity in their voices broke something open inside me, a hurt I had carried for so long that it had become part of my identity. I felt tears welling in my own eyes, but I blinked them back. determined to maintain my composure. "This does not change what happened," I said firmly. "Amanda still needs to make restitution." "And she will," my father assured me. "We will make sure of it this time. No excuses." Amanda looked up at me, her expression more genuine than I had seen in years. "I will pay back every penny, Heather, and I will get help for my gambling. I promise." For the first time since this ordeal began, I felt a glimmer of hope that something positive might emerge from this painful situation. Not just the return of my money, but perhaps a healthier family dynamic. "I am willing to accept the original repayment plan," I said after a moment's consideration. "A month with the provisions for full-time employment and selling the luxury items. And I want Amanda to get professional help for her gambling addiction." My parents nodded in unison, relief evident on their faces. But I continued. "The agreement will still be legally binding, and if payments are missed, I will not hesitate to pursue legal action." "That is fair," my father acknowledged. As we worked through the details of the agreement, I realized that this confrontation had accomplished something I never expected. It had finally forced my family to see me clearly, to recognize my boundaries and respect them. And perhaps even more surprisingly, it had forced them to see Amanda clearly too, not as the fragile, special child who needed protection, but as an adult with serious problems who needed actual help, not excuses. The family dynamic that had been set in stone for as long as I could remember had finally irrevocably shifted. After our coffee shop confrontation, we all went together to my apartment where Amanda signed the legally binding repayment agreement that Kyle had prepared. The terms were clear. Monthly immediate sale of luxury items purchased with my money, securing full-time employment within months, and enrollment in gambling addiction treatment. To my surprise, Amanda immediately handed over her new designer handbag and the unworn clothes still bearing tags that she had brought with her. "I will return everything else tomorrow," she promised, "and I already looked up some gambling support groups. There is one that meets on Tuesday evenings, not far from home." My father wrote a check for $5 as an initial good faith payment. "This is from us," he explained, "not to excuse what Amanda did, but to show that we are committed to making this right." I accepted the check, still somewhat wary, but cautiously optimistic. "Thank you," as they prepared to leave. My father lingered behind while my mother and Amanda headed to the car. "Heather," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "could we talk privately for a moment?" I nodded, and we sat down on my small couch. "I need to apologize to you," he began, his eyes meeting mine directly. "Not just for how we handled this situation, but for a lot of things over the years." I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "Your mother and I, we always saw you as the strong one, the capable one. Amanda seemed to need more from us, and we fell into a pattern of giving her more attention, more leeway. It was not fair to you, no." I agreed quietly, it was not. "I think we were blind to how our behavior affected you. We took your strength for granted, and we enabled Amanda's weaknesses." He ran a hand through his graying hair. "I am a high school principal. I should know better than to create that kind of dynamic between siblings." "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Because seeing you stand up for yourself like this made me realize how much we have underestimated you, and it made me see how much we have failed Amanda by not holding her accountable." He paused. "I am proud of you, Heather, not just for your success in your career, but for having the courage to stand up for what is right, even when it was difficult." His words touched something deep inside me, a longing for parental approval I had thought I had outgrown years ago. "Thank you," I said simply, not trusting myself to say more without my voice breaking. He squeezed my hand before standing to leave. "We will do better, all of us." Over the following weeks, changes began to unfold. Amanda returned or sold most of the items she had purchased, resulting in a recovery of about $100. She secured a full-time job as an administrative assistant at a local business, a position that was beneath her capabilities, but that she approached with unprecedented seriousness. My mother, though still struggling to break old habits, made a visible effort to treat us more equally. She called me regularly just to check in, something she had rarely done before. And when Amanda complained about the strictness of the repayment plan, I overheard my mother gently but firmly reminding her that she had created this situation and needed to follow through on her commitments. Months after our confrontation, my parents suggested family therapy. I was skeptical but agreed to attend. Those sessions were challenging, often painfully so, as years of dysfunctional patterns were brought to light and examined. My mother cried when I finally articulated how it had felt to always be held to a different standard than Amanda. My father struggled to accept how his well-intentioned protection of Amanda had actually hindered her growth and enabled her worst behaviors. For her part, Amanda showed genuine effort in therapy, gradually revealing how the pressure of being this special child had created its own burdens. She had felt simultaneously entitled to special treatment and terrified of disappointing our parents by being ordinary. Gambling had become her escape, a secret thrill that made her feel both powerful and numb. Months after the theft, Amanda had repaid nearly half of what she had taken. She was attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings twice weekly and had maintained her job with positive performance reviews. Our relationship remained fragile, but there were moments of authentic connection that gave me hope we might eventually rebuild something healthier than what we had before. "I never thanked you," she said to me one evening after we had both attended a therapy session. "For what?" I asked, surprised. "For not giving up on me," she replied quietly. "You could have just pressed charges and walked away from all of us. Sometimes I think that is what I deserved. I did not do it for you. I admitted I did it for me, because I needed to stand up for myself. I needed to know that my boundaries mattered." She nodded. "I understand that now, and I am trying to build my own healthy boundaries too. The therapist says I never developed them properly because Mom and Dad were always fixing everything for me." "Better late than never," I offered with a small smile. 1 year after the theft, Amanda made the final payment, returning my savings to its original amount. By that point, I had managed to save additional money, and combined with my original funds, I had enough for a down payment on a small but charming condo not far from my office. On moving day, I was surprised when my entire family showed up to help. As we carried boxes and arranged furniture, there was an ease between us that I had not felt in years, perhaps ever. It was not perfect. There were still moments of tension, old patterns that threatened to resurface, but there was also a new foundation of respect and honesty. That evening, as we sat among half-unpacked boxes sharing pizza, I reflected on the painful journey of the past year. The theft of my savings had been devastating, but it had forced a necessary reckoning within my family. It had compelled me to stand up for myself in ways I never had before. It had revealed Amanda's serious addiction and set her on a path to recovery. And it had finally made my parents see both of their daughters clearly. "What are you thinking about?" my mother asked, noticing my thoughtful expression. "The names of just that sometimes the most painful experiences lead to necessary growth," I replied. "A year ago, I never would have imagined we would be sitting here like this." My father raised his glass in a toast to Heather's new home and to second chances. As we clinked at glasses, I realized that the most valuable thing I had gained over the past year was not the return of my money or even my new home. It was the knowledge that I could stand firm in my own worth, that I could demand respect, and that doing so did not mean losing my family. It meant transforming our relationships into something healthier and more authentic. The journey had been painful, but the destination proved worth every difficult step along the way. My sister had stolen my savings, but in the process of reclaiming what was mine, I had found something even more valuable. My voice, my boundaries, and a family dynamic based on respect rather than roles. Have you ever had to stand up to family for your own well-being? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that setting boundaries with family is not just okay. It is sometimes absolutely necessary for everyone's growth. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, your worth is not determined by how much you sacrifice for others, but by how well you honor your own truth.